Welcome to the Information for Affected Persons and Families presentation from the Independent Investigations Office of British Columbia. I am Ron MacDonald, the Chief Civilian Director, or CCD, of the IIO. In accordance with the BC Police Act, the CCD can never have served as a member of any police force. I have been a lawyer since 1985, with most of my career spent working in the criminal justice system as defense and Crown Counsel, as a government policy advisor, and now with over 10 years working in the civilian oversight of law enforcement in Canada. Two major inquiries recommended the creation of a civilian oversight of law enforcement body in British Columbia: the Davies Commission into the death of Frank Paul and the Braidwood Commission into the death of Robert Jacansky. Frank Paul was a First Nations man who was released from Vancouver cells in 1998 and left in an alleyway. Mr. Paul was severely intoxicated and unable to care for himself at that time. He subsequently died of hypothermia in that alley. The Davies Commission criticized the Vancouver Police Department for not maintaining the required standard of care in Mr. Paul's case. Robert Jacansky was a Polish man who was tasered by police at the Vancouver International Airport in 2007. Mr. Jacansky spoke no English, and RCMP officers asserted in their testimony that he was behaving violently at that time, causing them to make the decision to taser him a number of times. Mr. Jacansky died minutes later. Justice Braidwood, who completed the inquiry into Jacansky's death, did not find that the repeated use of the taser was justified under the circumstances, and two of the four officers involved were later found guilty of committing perjury in providing misleading accounts of Mr. Jacansky's behavior during the incident to justify their use of force. Both inquiries recommended the creation of the IIO due to public concern about the perception of biased investigations when police were investigating other police. Thus, the IIO became operational on September 10, 2012. The IIO of British Columbia is a civilian-led police oversight agency that conducts independent investigations into police-involved incidents of death or serious harm, whether the officer is on or off duty. There does not need to be an allegation of wrongdoing for the IIO to investigate. The IIO has jurisdiction over incidents in BC involving RCMP, municipal police, transit police, Statlium tribal police, and any special provincial constables while they are exercising their authority in BC. IIO investigators are designated peace officers, and our office operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Hi there, my name is Crystal Robinson. I'm one of the Affected Persons Liaisons with the Independent Investigations Office. I've been with the IIO since 2018, and I bring with me over 20 years experience working from a trauma-informed lens. I look forward to meeting with you and helping you through the IIO's investigation. Thank you so much.
Hello, my name is John Smith, and I'm one of the Affected Persons Liaisons with the Independent Investigations Office of British Columbia. I'm here to assist you in any way I can. I come to the IIO with 3 decades of experience working with and assisting vulnerable and marginalized persons. I'm here to listen and to provide information about the investigation and to assist you in getting the appropriate resources to help you during your time with the IIO. Thank you.
What is an affected person, an AP? An affected person, or AP, is someone who is directly impacted by the incident. That is, the person who has sustained serious harm or has died. In cases where a person has died of an officer-related incident, the next of kin and family are offered assistance from the IIO's Affected Persons Liaisons.
The IIO's Affected Persons Liaisons program provides support and referral services to affected persons who have sustained serious injury or their families if the affected person has died. When a death occurs, the APL may assist the investigator in notifying the next of kin when required and provides immediate crisis support to families and referrals to community-based services. Community members who may not have been directly involved but were affected by the incident may also request referrals to community-based services if needed. This may include civilian witnesses who may be emotionally impacted by what they observed.
What is the role of the affected persons liaisons? The APLs are full-time dedicated IIO employees who are the bridge between an affected person and families and the IIO investigative team. The APL assists affected persons and their families in an incident by explaining the role of the IIO and the investigative process, interpreting legislation, discussing how the investigative agencies work together, and typically providing investigative updates when available throughout the life of the file. The IIO's APLs will connect with the affected person and/or their family immediately following the incident to introduce themselves as the primary point of contact, including establishing themselves as the conduit for providing information on the file progress as the investigation advances. They offer support and will be available to answer questions regarding the IIO and our investigative processes. They connect the affected person and/or their families with external resources in their community, such as counseling services, bereavement programs, addiction services, housing support services, and much more.
Under the Police Act, police agencies must report to the IIO any incident where the actions or inactions of a police officer may have led to the serious harm or death of any person. Sometimes we will also investigate cases where there is no serious harm if the Director of Police Services orders us to do so. The IIO conducts public interest investigations to a criminal standard to determine if those actions of the police are justified in those cases where the police caused the harm. The IIO's start from zero investigative approach means that all investigations begin without any bias or preconceived notions. When a police-involved incident resulting in death or serious harm is reported, the IIO will start an investigation which will include gathering all available evidence. Our investigative teams respond to new cases much like any modern investigative agency would. We conduct forensic scene examination, canvass for video and witness evidence, interview all witnesses and witness police officers who must cooperate with us, obtain important expert reports where necessary, and conduct all other necessary investigative steps and analysis. Often this will mean revisiting certain aspects of the matter to ensure complete thoroughness. During an investigation, the Chief Civilian Director, or CCD, is provided updates by the investigative team on a regular basis by briefings, file reviews, and other update meetings. At the conclusion of an investigation, the investigative team prepares a report for the CCD, who will review the report and any other aspects of the file as necessary and meet with the investigative team at a file review meeting, where the file can be discussed in depth. If the CCD does not require additional work, then the CCD will review all the evidence and make one of the following decisions. 1. If the CCD determines, based on evidence, that there are reasonable grounds to believe that an officer may have committed an offense, they may refer the matter to Crown Counsel for consideration of charges. 2. However, if the CCD concludes there are no reasonable grounds to believe that an officer may have committed an offense, they may issue a public report, a media release, or conclude the investigation without further public reporting. In order to approve charges, Crown Counsel must be satisfied that there is both a substantial likelihood of conviction based on the evidence gathered by the IIO and that prosecution is required in the public interest. This decision is made independent of the IIO and CCD's recommendations. If charges are not approved, Crown will explain that reasoning in a clear statement. Other external investigations may continue during and after the IIO investigation has concluded, such as concurrent police investigations, the Office of the Police Complaint Commissioner of BC, the Civilian Review and Complaints Commission for the RCMP, and the BC Coroner Service investigation into the cause of death. Many IIO investigations are concluded with a public report. Public reports are a critical component of the IIO's commitment to transparency. They detail a narrative of the incident, the evidence gathered, the decision-making rationale, and legal principles applied. In some cases, a concluding media release will be published instead of a public report to provide a basic narrative and rationale to the public while protecting the privacy of the affected person and their family. Lastly, in cases where the privacy interests of the individual outweigh the public interest, a file may be closed without any additional information being made public. In the event of a media release, all efforts will be made to contact the affected person or their family in advance. The IIO typically does not make any public statement about the investigation process or progress unless such a statement is aimed at securing or preserving additional evidence. Generally, IIO media releases do not contain personal information, such as the affected person's name or age. Instead, they provide the date, time, and a brief description of the incident as it was reported to the IIO.
How are investigative updates provided? The amount and type of information that can be shared during an investigation depends on the specifics of each investigation and will be assessed on a case-by-case basis. Any questions from the affected person or family can be provided to the APL, who will pass them on to the investigative team for consideration. All efforts will be made to provide timely information about the investigation to an affected person or their next of kin. But if a question cannot be answered at any given point in time, the APL will keep a record of questions to be answered at the conclusion of the investigation. Families will be provided regular updates regarding the investigation, such as evidence collection stage, assessment or analytical stage, pending file review, and file conclusion. To preserve the integrity of the investigation, these updates should be considered confidential and are not to be shared.
Handling media. Media outlets may contact you regarding the incident and request your comment. You are not obligated to speak to the media, but you may choose to. If you do speak to the media, we recommend you be prepared, as they may ask unexpected and potentially challenging questions regarding the incident or other personal information. Note that investigative updates provided to you by the APL or IIO investigator are confidential and should not be shared with media representatives. If a media outlet contacts you and you do not wish to speak to them, you can direct them to call the IIO media line at 778-988-1041 for comment. You are well within your rights to ask them to stop contacting you.
Managing grief and trauma. Incidents that result in serious harm or death can have serious emotional and psychological impacts on affected persons, their families, witnesses, and communities. Everyone manages grief differently, and there is no one set of reactions that are normal. Symptoms of grief may include physical symptoms such as shortness of breath, tightness in throat, numbness, headaches, loss of weight, increase in common illnesses, a sense of emptiness or heaviness, and more. Behavioral changes such as restlessness, inability to maintain organization, withdrawal from friends or work, absent-mindedness, or an inability to concentrate. Psychological symptoms may include dreaming of the deceased, preoccupation with thoughts of the deceased, auditory or visual hallucinations, or having a sense of the deceased's presence. Any of these symptoms may accompany feelings of shock, anger, disbelief, confusion, depression, and loneliness. The IIO's Affected Persons Program provides emotional support, validation of the range of feelings you may experience, referrals to services in your community, private resources, and more.
Understanding the stages of grief. People often assume that grief should be over in only a fraction of the time it takes. In fact, bereavement does not follow a decreasing linear timeline, but has many ups and downs and twists and turns. Time is a therapeutic factor in the grief process, in that it enables the mourner to put things into perspective, to adapt to the necessary changes, and to understand their own feelings. The common stages of grief are as follows: shock and disbelief. Often, to protect oneself against the stress or pain, we use numbness or shock. This numbness and shock or disbelief leaves in time, exposing ourselves to pain. Denial. While someone has died, it may not feel that way psychologically. In time, we will feel and accept this reality, and we should share our grief openly to heal. Withdrawal from others. For some, Time to be by themselves to reflect is a necessary part of the grieving process. Anger. Anger is a normal part of the grieving process. If not expressed in the appropriate environment, anger may be directed at whoever is around. Tears. Tears and sadness are an integral part of the grieving process. There is no time limit on tears while experiencing grief.
Resources. Lastly, this is a condensed list of helpful resources concerning mental health, loss, substance misuse, and grief across the province. We encourage you to refer to the Information for Affected Persons and Families booklet on the publication page of our website to find a longer list of region-specific resources, as well as more information regarding the other topics presented here.
If you have any questions, please call or email your affected person's liaison. If you don't remember their name or contact details, please call the IIO at 604-586-5668 or email us at info@iiobc.ca. We will be happy to assist you.